Hello and good evening.
I was assisted by Stevie Apple, Jane Anderholt, and Boyd Bruckmiller. So thank you all very much for your help, and they're going to be assisting counting votes that came in after the Friday deadline. We had some that were in the homeowner's office, and any votes that are cast tonight. The voting will be open for 30 minutes, starting now, and after 30 minutes, no votes will be accepted. Thank you.
Thank you, Standy. I would like to invite our General Manager, Rob McDaniel, here. We're going to introduce the Volunteer of the Year Awards. There he is.
Are you going to present this? I'm going to present this, okay. Volunteer of the Year is a tough choice for us. We have a lot of, as already indicated, quite a few people serving on various committees on the board, of course, putting in lots of time and energy, whether they're out at events or the landscape committee or the security or the finance, quite a bit of time, energy, and effort put into that. So picking one person is a challenge, but we have done that with the board reviewing this and voting to select this individual. And this individual this year is Bruce Berger, one of our own on the board. A little bit about Bruce. Bruce comes to us with a golf background and has been really provided a huge resource for us for his knowledge in landscaping, all things green, how to take care of our things that are green, and has just been a great resource for the landscape committee and the board to advise us on the care of our landscaping and our common areas. And one case in point, if you guys recall going back to, I guess now a year or so ago, we had the big freeze, the big snowstorm, and it was 4 days of really, really cold temperatures, and it took a toll on a lot of the plants out here, and we lost a lot of plant material, but a lot of it just reacted as plants do and went dormant. And the board was concerned that we were going to be replacing a lot of plant material at a great expense to the HOA, and Bruce said, no, we're okay, just take your time, let's just see how it plays out. And be patient, and the board said okay, and we did, and we took a while, and everybody was like, well, plants are dead, the plants are dead, and he's like, no, not necessarily. And lo and behold, a season or two afterwards, and plant material came back from the ground, and we really didn't replace any plant material, saved significant amount of money for the HOA. Plant material, actually, we got rid of a lot of stuff that may have helped the appearance in clearing out some material, but Bruce, that's just one aspect of the benefit Bruce brings to this HOA and the board, and we've greatly appreciated his calm demeanor and his logic and his reason on the board and on the landscape committee. So thank you so much for your service, sir. We appreciate it. Round of applause for Bruce Berger.
I refer to Bruce as the master grass grower. So everything that you see every day as you residents and friends are coming in through the front gates, all our gates, all the islands and everything, it's thanks to Bruce, his knowledge and attention to detail, which also gets complicated because of the massive sprinkler system that we have in place here at the Dominion. So thank you, Bruce, for your knowledge and working with our landscapers in Maldonado and keeping us looking fabulous.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Okay, and I have to say, during that ice storm, we had our treasurer really nervous. But Bruce, being so calm, said, don't worry, things are going to come back. We don't need to reallocate any of our dollars. Thank you again, Bruce, and thank you, Mike. So Mike is going to, as our treasurer, has done a fabulous job of printing money. How he does it, I don't ask. The bottom line looks good, and he's going to tell you all the details and how it happens. Mike McCray.
Keith thinks it was real funny that I lost 106 viburnum during the big freeze, so it's still very sore and in my mind. So thank you for coming tonight. The first thing I want to do is just recognize the people that work on the Finance Committee, because I think it's an exemplary group, and I'll explain why. I've been the treasurer for 1 year, but I have the good fortune of working with 2 treasurers that are still part of the Finance Committee. One is Sandy, and one is Barry. So we've got 3 board members and 3 former treasurers on the Finance Committee. So I'm very, let's put it this way, if I don't know the answer, one of them will. Also joining us is Boyd Bruckmiller for the first year. And last but not least, and certainly the one that kind of holds it all together, is our controller and management liaison, Lisa Fratangelo. Without Lisa, I'm not sure what any of us would do. But I just want to take a, okay, okay. What we're going to do is we're just going to look quickly at the balance sheet at the end of last year, so December 31st, 2021, and we're going to look at the single year of 2021. So what you see there is assets. The whole balance sheet is just a story about cash. We've got $6.2 million in cash. That is invested in basically as conservative as we can. We keep reasonable balances in checking, and everything else is put into a certificate of deposit that Lisa administers on a weekly basis. Again, very few liabilities. So again, a very, very good cash position for an HOA. Let's go to the income statement, and we'll look at revenue. And I'll tell you a little bit more about revenue, but about roughly 85% of everything that the HOA takes in revenue comes from the monthly assessments. That $230 that everyone pays every month is about 85% of what's brought in. And there are other fees, you know, and we all may or may not pay some of these fees. Transponder fees, I think we pay that. I'm not sure how often we pay it. But a lot of the fees are associated with people coming into the Dominion, building houses, buying lots, that type of thing. So we have a number of one-time fees that are associated with that. But the interesting thing about 2021 is we had a lot of that activity. A lot of people moving in, buying homes, building homes, buying lots. Just a tremendous amount of real estate activity and transactions this year. And as a result of that, we were almost 11% above last year. So 11% over 2021, and I'm going to show you how that happened. So this is, again, a look at 2021 and 2020, which I just showed you, but here we added a variance column. And the 2 big ones, as you can see, with more people moving into the Dominion and buying houses, buying lots, we've got a bigger population for monthly assessments. And that's what you would expect. You know, the Dominion has somewhere around 1,725 houses and lots that people pay assessments on. We think that total number is probably for the future up to maybe 2,000. So you can see we've got a little room to grow, but certainly not nearly as much as, you know, we had 10 years ago. But the variance here is interesting, you know, between the monthly assessments, again, more people coming in, buying lots, building homes, 345,000 more than the year before. And then we have a fee that the first time you come in and buy a lot as a new resident, or you build a home, or buy a home, we have a new resident assessment of $2,500, and that number was very significantly higher this year than in other years. So all in all, a positive variance between 2020 and 2021 of over $500,000 in revenue, which is fabulous. On the expense side, we were roughly 7.5% above where we were in 2020 at $4,482,000. As I think a lot of you know, security is the big ticket item here. Almost, I think it's close to 46% of everything we spend on an operating basis is done on security. Landscaping, about half of what we pay for security, and that includes our water bill. Actually, the water bill was pretty low last year. If you remember, it looked like Ireland here till about the 4th of July. But not sure we're going to be so lucky this year. General administrative, $880. Again, the total about $4.5 million. One of the things that I want to just briefly mention, we've been left, or people like me who work with the Dominion's money, have been left with some very good rules to follow by the people that, you know, have worked here for a long time, and boards long ago. And there are really 3 rules that we follow that really help us manage the money here in a way that we all have confidence in. One is that every year we have to have a break-even budget. So that means revenue and expenses have to be greater than, you know, $1. The second one is that we have a 3-month requirement for cash. So basically you take your amount of expenses for any given month, multiply it by 3, and that's the amount of money that we are required to have in cash or something very liquid like cash. And then the third one involves capital resources like streets and buildings and stuff like that, and I'll talk about that one later. So let's move to capital reserves. So one of the first things, and I'll talk about this just in a second, but one of the first things we do with that $230 a month from all 1,725 households is that we take $25 out of that and move it to a different pocket. And by a different pocket, I mean we move it to our capital accounts. Once that money goes to the capital account, it doesn't come back. It doesn't come back from the operating account. Once it goes to the capital account, it stays there. It doesn't come back. And of course, that capital account is us saving money for the types of expenditures that we, for example, streets, buildings, you name it, any capital asset we reserve for its replacement, okay? The reserve fee that I talked about, the new resident fee, that none of that money stays in the operating budget. It goes immediately into the capital budget. And then there's some other things. So with all that going on, we transferred almost $1 million to the capital funds in 2021. We talked about the capital. Last year, we spent almost $500,000 on street repairs. That, I think, is a little lower than we would normally spend. But again, what we do every 3 years, we work with a third-party company that produced something called a reserve study for us. And what they do is they look at all our long-term assets or our capital assets, and they give us estimates of what we need replaced in any given year over a 30-year period. And by the way, that number for the 2020 study that we had done was $37 million. So you can see we have, you know, as we grow, as we build, that number is going to go up. And again, we've got to reserve for it. Otherwise, you know, we're just not going to have the money when it's needed. So sometimes people look at us and think, you know, we've got this huge cache of money and we're not doing anything with it. But what you oftentimes forget is that there's $37 million worth of expenses sitting out there, or estimated and sitting out there, you know, waiting to be taken care of. Every year we take about $100,000 out of our capital money and we do some type of major landscaping project, and that's where Bruce and his team come in. And I think one of the more recent ones was the front entrance, was it not? Okay. So things like that are, you know, much bigger than a neighborhood project, but involve that kind of money. We budget for one of those every year. I already talked about the reserve study, the $37 million. As far as where did my money go, that first in the blue upper right is $25. That's the money that we take from your $230 assessment. We immediately take that out of the operating pocket and we put it in the capital pocket. And it never leaves the capital pocket unless it's used to pay for replacement or repair, in case of a street, a capital asset. And then basically the rest of it is proportional to the level of expense that we have here in the Dominion. And the three biggest categories of expenses are security, taking $91, landscaping taking, is that 53? Yes, and general administration 43, and then other smaller areas take smaller amounts. But that kind of reconciles the, you know, where your money goes to. So looking to kind of conclude, I want to look just into 2022 and give you kind of an assessment of where I think we're going to be. From a revenue perspective, we're going to be roughly equal to what we were in 2021. Now, granted, 2021 was significantly higher than our estimate, so we're shooting for a big number, but it happens to be roughly our budget number for 2022. Our expenses are 5.4%. The budget is 5.4% more than 2021 for 2022. However, we don't feel any need, and we have no need at this point, largely because we had a great year. We're going to leave the $230 monthly assessment alone, and you know, that will be the monthly assessment for all of 2022. We already talked about one of the board requirements for the 3-month operating cash reserve. Our budget will hit that, or certainly projected to hit that, and certainly will be a break-even budget as well. On the capital side, Lisa put, you know, a little bit of money away every day in her drawer, and at the end of the year, she cleaned it out, And there was 1.5 million in that drawer. And I'm just kidding. But I'm not kidding about the amount. I'm kidding that Lisa kept it in her drawer. But so we transferred from the operating accounts to the capital account again. And once that money is transferred, it doesn't come back. $1.5 million, which is obviously quite significant. Because we had so much money in the capital budget and we're needing more money in the operating budget, we decreased the amount that we're holding back for the capital account from the monthly assessments. So what happened is, we were in 2021, we were taking $25. This year, we started with a budget of $18.50, rather than down from $25. And then we've got some other expenses that have come up during the year, notably more security. We use some of the capital money, not the capital money, but the operating money to fund a new officer, San Antonio police officer, for a 5th shift, and I think that's a late night shift, isn't it? Okay. And then we're being asked to look at other security expenses. So we will continue to do that as a finance committee and adjust accordingly from the standpoint of what we withhold every month from everybody's monthly assessment. And the other thing the board did, and remember I said there were 3 different tests that the board put together, and really quite intelligently so. And there is also another hurdle, if you will, that the finance committee and the board has to adhere to. And basically it says that we have to have enough money in the capital account, not the operating account, in the capital account to fund some percentage of the reserve that's being asked for the next 5 years. So we will look at a 5-year time frame, in this case 2023, 24, 25, 26, 27. We look at the amount of the reserve study that says how much we're going to spend during that period of time, and then we have to keep a percentage of that money. So that what does that do? We basically cannot overspend in the operating account, and we can't overspend in the capital account. So I've only got 2 pockets. One says operations, one says capital. I can't overspend either one of them. So again, that's a short scenario of where we were in 2021 and where we're going in 2022. Do we entertain questions or later? Later? Okay, all right. So thank you.
Don't you all want Mike McRae as treasurer back for this next fiscal year? All in favor? Say aye. Sorry, Chip, we don't do it. We don't elect our officers and directors that way. You know that. I'm joking. Our next report, the development report, this is a very sensitive matter for all of you, for all of us. Why? Because we want to preserve and enhance our property values. Unfortunately, Rich Dietz couldn't be here tonight. He's traveling. Rob is going to make the report. But I want you, as residents and my friends and neighbors, to remember one thing. This development committee does a fantastic job of enforcing our protective covenants to make sure that developers, and home builders, whether they are within the pearly gates of the Dominion or within the Dominion PUD, which is all properties adjacent to the Dominion, that they not only pay a uniform assessment, like dues, just like we do, every month, but also follow and abide by our protective covenants that deal with everything from security, landscaping, architectural controls, and so on. So Rob will give you some more details here in a minute.
Good evening, everybody. I didn't have a chance to say that before, but I do want to welcome everybody that came out this evening and sharing your time with us in person. And for those that are joining us on live streaming, we appreciate you joining us through that mechanism. Hope this is working well for you. As was indicated, I'm here to present the report for the Development Committee. Rich is on the road today. I'm in no way replacing Rich. I don't think anybody can replace Rich Dietz. We're extremely fortunate to have this gentleman in our community and helping out on the Development Committee and the board. He does an incredible job with some very detailed aspects of development. There has been quite a bit of development activity here in the last couple of years, probably as much or more so than all previous 35 years in the community. Lots of growth. San Antonio's growing, obviously. City's growing around us, but there's growth within the community, not only homes, but retail, commercial, and various other aspects of development. But with that, we take the opportunity to introduce those that serve on the Development Committee. It is the chair, Rich Dietz. Peter Garcia is the board liaison, sits on the board. If you're in the audience joining us, would you please stand? Art Burdick, Roberto Kenningstein, Barry Rupert also sits on the board. Albert Reed, Keith Pyron, Gary Cram sits on the board, not able to join us this evening, and Mark Wolforth. So thank you to them. A round of applause for those that serve on that committee. All right, Rich is a very detailed individual and has a lot of data for you, and he's put it all together for you in a very organized way. I will do my best to present it to you, probably not as well as Rich might, but nonetheless, here we go, the agenda. We're going to talk about our street rehabilitation program. Mike touched on it. We have a lot of streets out there, and it costs a lot to renovate those and keep them looking good and premier. Residential, commercial tract development out there. We have office complexes. We have retail strips on I-10 access road, and that development has happened the last 2 years and is continuing. And then we're going to talk about some of our stakeholders that we deal with in the city, various agencies, both citywide, county, perhaps state, in the area that help facilitate and provide services for the Dominion and coordinate their efforts. Start with the street rehabilitation plan. You can see the budget from 2022 all the way to 2026. Won't get into the details and numbers, but the allocation of funds for those years for just streets alone is anywhere from $433 to about $637,000 a year. So average $500 or so $1,000 a year for street rehabilitation. Mike touched in detail on the capital funding of that. It is well funded, and we have a very organized plan to do that systematically. Thank you. Systematically throughout the community. We do work with Pave Dawson engineers, and we have for decades now. So if anybody knows Tom Carter, but various individuals within Pave Dawson, well-respected engineering firm here in San Antonio, helps to develop our plan, oversees the plan, bids out the work, and then monitors the work and inspects the work once it's completed. They are looking at this year's work and taking a fresh look at what we have done. We try to take a fresh look every year to see what we have planned, it still makes sense, and whether there's new applications or new procedures or new products that can be used to either do it better or more efficiently or more cost effectively. We did introduce a new product called HA5, won't bore you with it, but essentially it's a sealer or a coating that goes on and bonds with the asphalt and helps protect and extend the life of asphalt so we don't have to replace asphalt, much less expensive, and helps the streets look better over time. We did that in the gardens and the cloisters, and I believe in the legends, so you have nice new-looking streets, and hopefully they'll stay looking that way for some time, but they also prolong the life of that street and delays the repaving of those streets for hopefully years, if not decades. We'll see how that works out. Talked about a little bit about development. So Dominion Hills or Lucchese, it previously was Dominion Hills for those, or Independence Village. It was referred to in earlier days, but Dominion Hills, or now Lucchese Estates, Lucchese Village. It's basically a 67-acre development south of or off of Brenthurst. So the development committee did extensive work on developing covenants and restrictions for that neighborhood. And back in 2017, brought that neighborhood, it used to be outside the secure perimeter, and worked with that developer to bring that neighborhood in that area inside the gate, inside the guarded perimeter. And so that's where it lays and exists now. Currently working on covenants for Dominion Heights was recently done. That's the newest addition. There's about 50 homes or 50 lots that are currently being built. There's about 4 homes in that neighborhood right now. 2 are being built, 2 are finished. And looking for developing covenants for phase 2 of what's going to be called Lucchese Estates. Totally undeveloped at this point, unplatted. They did have a plat at one point, but that has expired. But we're going to be working with that developer for platting and developing covenants for that future neighborhood. So there's still undeveloped land out there, not only at Lucchese, but on the south end of the community in Avila and Aragon and at the south gate, that still has yet to be platted, has yet to be put under covenants. And so there's still probably 200 or so lots that are available, but open or vacant, and probably another 150 that could be and eventually will be platted and available for building. So still a community that's projected for, let's say, 2,000 homes. We're about 1,600 homes into that are complete, another 400 homes. And at this point in time, there's about 60 or 70 homes under construction, which is historically quite a high number. Talked a little bit about some of the development commercial tracks. So this was a unique one, probably, I think the first essentially for the Dominion planned unit development. Some people don't necessarily know that Dominion Springs and now Dominion Creek Shopping Center out on the access road, essentially in Leon Creek, is part of the Dominion planned unit development. It is a member of the homeowners association or the association. They are members, they pay assessments. We don't really provide much service for them, but they are in this community. They are part of this community. We, the development committee and the board, adopted covenants for these developments, and they are part of our organization. Also oversaw the expansion of the sales pavilion. They built another office space, 2-story office next to the homeowner association office. That's just for additional office space. So office development, there's the commons, there's also the Agora office space, kind of in the center part of the community. I mentioned Dominion Creek. It is the first phase has been built. There's several businesses that are already there, the Wingstop and others. A pad is being developed right now for a restaurant, the Roadhouse, and there's additional pad available for, I believe, a future restaurant yet to be determined. But it's probably half built and still some development to happen for that retail strip. Other projects that we're working on are underway. The Aragon, on the south end, there's Aragon, Avila, and Alturas. So at this point in time, they're extending essentially into phase 2, or extending the neighborhoods of Avila and Aragon to add additional 40 or 50 lots. There'll be some very large lots in that neighborhood. Bluffs phase 1 has been essentially, probably 70% complete and built out. They have turned over common elements for that neighborhood to the HOA after inspection, and they're now, as you can see on the north end, they're developing phase 2 of the Bluffs. That's, again, single-family residential that you see along Dominion Drive going towards and past the north gate. Okay. Other projects, unfortunately, but it is a reality. There is a 10-acre tract. It is multifamily 33 at the north intersection at Alley Road. It's been somewhat of an issue of discussion, perhaps a little controversy. It is still planned and projected. The city is reviewing a traffic impact analysis. We have not received the results of that, but the city, as we understand it, has received that TAI, or traffic impact analysis, and reviewing how and how the developer should address those issues and their incremental impact on traffic on Alley Road and other roads nearby. Already touched on Aragon, Alturas, and Avila, and Bluffs Phase 2 is again under development. Talked a little bit about our external stakeholders. There are quite a few. Dominion's fortunate with the type and caliber of people that we have living here. We do have connections throughout the community and influence in the community, but we do try to work closely and cooperatively with the various agencies and entities out there so that better serve our community and get the services that we need and desire. The CSRW is your new wastewater treatment server provider. It was previously Leon Creek. It was previously run by Inco, the initial declarant or the declarant. They have since sold that entity. They don't want to be in that business, but the CSRW purchased it. I think there's a little information on that, but they are in several states and have many different plants and services. So this is the business they're in. They purchased it. They are running the service and currently are the provider. We do work with TxDOT out on the highway there. We work with the councilman and the city council and the mayor to some degree in various projects, Tejas Trail being one of them, the hike and bike trail, and hopefully we're hoping to get some renovation of Raymond Russell Park. It is a county park at this point in time. There's some appetite by the city and hope that the city might purchase it and perhaps renovate it. City of San Antonio, CPS is your power provider. We work closely with them, particularly when we had storms and power outages and power security. We work closely with them on how to mitigate that, how to respond, and perhaps how to prevent it in future years, whether it be storm or trees or otherwise. There's information on the wastewater treatment. 517 plants, 43 plants are in Texas. Number of employees up there, won't bore you with all the details. But we did vet them, and it's also the Texas Public Utility Commission reviews such sales, and they were thoroughly vetted. A solid company. We're impressed, and we felt like that this provider wants to provide it and is capable and has a track record of providing this service. So, and they've already indicated they're going to reinvest about $800,000 into our infrastructure, with $200,000 within the first few months. So we hope to see something. We don't want that be with that type of service. Most of it's underground, but with the plant itself, they're out on near the golf course. There's been some concern in the past about odor mitigation. So we've discussed that with them. They have plans in place to help control that matter as best as possible. They talk about CPS and power outages. We had some occurrences with storm. They attribute 63% of those power outages to some sort of storm-related issue, whether a tree. There's very few lines out there, but there are some lines leading into the Dominion and some actually in the Dominion, overhead power lines. And those are affected by trees or storm damage. It does take out power. They try to react. Obviously, we had some power outages throughout San Antonio, throughout the state during the big freeze. Won't go into that. That was just a very unique situation and unfortunate. But we do try to work with CPS, and they've indicated, and this has provided some information to us about how they're trying to improve their services with inspections. They have some drone services where they check trees and impact of trees and overhead lines. And they have this technology called LiDAR, which kind of assesses the trees around their lines and how it might impact damage to their lines and power outages. So they're responding, and they have done some things to provide some power security for this neighborhood, to provide some redundancy of power services and try to reduce the number of outages. And with anecdotally and statistically that has occurred, but we're certainly still continue to work with them to improve their services. That was it for development. I did my best to be Rich Dietz, but that's a tough deal. Keep going, you got the next one. All right. I'm going to go into architectural control. I do serve as a chair by virtue of the documents for the Architectural Control Committee. Serving on the committee, again, if you're here, please stand to be recognized. Art Burdick, Mark Fortson, Roberto Kenningstein, Teresa Hines, Carol Mitten, I know is here. We got Jeff Kistner. I don't know Ms. Colleen Dietz. I think she's watching us online. Hello, Colleen. John Monday, Randon Hayes just joined us, so a resident and a builder. Glad to have Randon. And then Cecilia Stewart is our new staff liaison and administrator. She handles all the paperwork and keeping everybody organized and the meetings organized. So that's the committee. Thank you for your service on the ACC. They do meet about weekly, so they're a pretty regular group, and we spend about an hour and a half, 2 hours handling anywhere from 10 to 20 applications. And again, 60 or 70 homes that are construction at this point in time. We got some statistics for you here in a little bit. What do we do? Review new home plans. So again, quite a few happening right now with the growth. We also review the architectural aspects of retail and commercial. They're one-offs, and there's really not documents that kind of stipulate what they should look like, but we do try to take a look at those and try to end up with the best looking, whether it's restaurant or retail strip, and hope we've done that with Dominion Springs and Dominion Creek. Manage the builders and enforce construction site rules, that's a tough one. If you live out anywhere where there's construction happening, it's pretty messy out there, no matter what. Construction is messy. What's a reasonable amount of mess? I haven't quite figured that out, but we try to, minimize trash, minimize noise, keep it timed so they're come in at a reasonable time and leave at a reasonable time, and keep the sites looking reasonably well during the construction period. But again, it's a messy business, and we'll do the best we can to. If you live in neighborhoods like Gardens right now, and perhaps the Bluffs and a few others, there's a lot of activity out there. So we ask for your patience. And if you do have issues, just give us a call. We'll do the best we can to get out there and try to get cleaned up, or work with those builders and developers to clean it up. Manage erosion issues and drainage issues, which is kind of tough with this neighborhood being, with Texas, when it rains, it can rain pretty hard. And we do have some pretty significant elevation changes in our neighborhood. Review covenant violations as a kind of offset of modifications, but any violations that are architectural in nature or could be other issues, dog barking and noise complaints and such. And then we collect the permit fees and manage the deposits for all those projects. Here's some of the statistics for 2021. Last year, issued building permits was really approval to proceed or build a house, with 28 of those, 131 modifications approved. We don't approve everything. We denied 114, so we feel like we try to monitor those and make sure that they're done in harmony with what's existing. And there was 22 homes completed in 2021. We expect that number probably to double this year. With that concludes the ACC portion of the presentation. Since I'm here, I'll go ahead and take the opportunity to introduce my staff. You already met me. Lisa Frantangelo. Anyways, I always mess with her name. Lisa has been with me as long as I've been here, and that's getting up to 10 years now. But she, as was mentioned, she really is the glue that holds it all together. She does all the finance, all the admin, directs our staff, keeps us all, keeps the rest of the gang happy when I don't. And it does a great job all around. She's a treat to have, and we're fortunate to have her. Lisa, if you're back there, I see you back there, please stand. There's Lisa. We're just going to let Lisa have applause. The rest of them, so we'll go through. Cecilia Stewart's up front here, as I mentioned, ACC and Covenant Enforcement. Andrea Castanarino, where you at, Andrea? Not here. Amber Casillas is here. Amber just took over security as well as neighborhood outreach, and doing a fantastic job in putting on events and also keeping us security folks organized and informed. And Kayla DeLeon is our front desk. We have three, actually. We've got Lauren Citry and Lauren Martinez at the front desk, all smiles and happy and really helping everybody out. They know more than I do, and it's not saying much, but they know more than I do, and they really just kind of greet everybody and take care of everybody as they come in and try to do the best they can to answer all your questions and serve you guys. So we appreciate them. That's my staff. Thank you, everybody. Yeah. The voting has closed as of 7:45. 7:45. Voting is over and closed, so we will start tabulating what we've got, and it'll be announced here in a little bit, probably at the end of our presentation. With that, I'll turn it over to Bob, and we will, at a little later date, we'll do the awards. We'll do the board members for the questions, especially if you want to. No, just go ahead and finish presentation. Okay.
Wow, a favorite topic, security. Got to tell you, in the last 2 years, COVID, election, ice storm, this world has changed. We are all suddenly now angry at each other. We've got our guns drawn. I think we should work together. This is our neighborhood. We all care about security because we're all affected by it. Has the world come out towards the Dominion? Oh gosh, yes. We can all tell stories about how we leave our doors and windows unlocked to go get the mail or go play around in golf and come back. Not anymore, folks. Times have changed. And Jane Anderholt and now Bob Parker, with their security team, this is the highest priority right now. Because remember, this entire area is still porous. through the golf course. People are able to walk across and enter a compound at any time. We are very concerned about it, folks. This has gone to such a hot topic that we spend more time on security matters now. And thanks to a solid committee led by Jane Anderholt and now Bob Parker and Tom Phillips, I see him smiling back there. He's going to tell you more about how we're changing and adapting to take care of all of us.
Well, good evening. I'm not carrying, okay? The Security Committee has actually twofold. One, we set up policies and procedures for the safety and security of the community. And I divide it into two systems, safety and security. And I use an example. If you join the pool and someone's checking your ID card to get in, that's kind of security. But if you're inside and there's no lifeguard, that's the safety. So we look at both. We look at people walking on the streets, jogging, bicycles, et cetera. So we set up policies, procedures, and then the biggest thing we spend a lot of time on is the oversight of the security contract. We spent a lot of time developing the RFP, the proposal requirements. We went through a long, exhaustive study of the companies that submitted them. And so anyway, that's what basically the charter of the committee. Now, the committee itself is listed here, and I see Tom's here. Tom, would you stand up? Would the committee stand up? I know Tom's here, Lynette. Jeff's here. All our new members. It's a very, very active committee, and we've got a very diversified committee. One of our members was in charge of security, let's just say, at a place that had a lot of cash, a casino. We've had people that are on emergency response teams. Where's Jane leave? Okay, Jane had a career in the military. Myself, I've had a 33-year career in the military. That doesn't necessarily make you qualified, but just give you an example. I was responsible for the security of 1,000 Minuteman missiles spread across 6 states in the United States. I had security people, I had sensors, I had all these things. So, and then I also was responsible for 6 military installations, the housing area. So I understand the challenges of security. And with our team, I promise you, we are taking it seriously and we're looking at new ideas all the time. And I'd like to put a bit in right now. If you have a question, an issue, I don't care if it's on Nextdoor or wherever it is, you can call. Matter of fact, Amber, did you stand up? Amber's in the back, and she's our liaison. If there's an issue and you need something, please contact Amber, and she will call me personally. I've had people call me. I've gone out to a couple of incidents. I went out to where one of the vehicles was stolen. Last night, is Jesse here? Our security, our SAPD liaisons over there in the back, and Chief is here too. I went out with Jesse last night on the golf course about 10 o'clock at night, and I will tell you one thing, it's dark out there. So when you want to talk about security, it isn't just a matter of having someone there. We even have night vision goggles. We are looking at some new initiatives I'll show you in a minute. But anyways, the committee is there. If you have any questions and you want to contact a committee member, I promise you they'll bring it up. If you want to attend the committee meeting, please, we'd love to have you there. So we're open for suggestions. All right, thank you. I'm going to go through these quickly. Seeing I have the biggest budget, I have the fewest slides. One of the things I wanted to point out is not the total traffic, but the visitors. We process about 40-some thousand visitors a month. Now, these are vendors and people coming in as guests. Just to give you the magnitude of how many people are coming in every day through our security system. I'm going to go back to the incidents in another slide. We've had some problems recently with speeding, and we have 3 cameras up now, and you're going to see in the next slide, or 2 slides down, a difference in the cameras have made. We call it traffic calming, whether it's the flashing red lights. I know some people, stop signs, I know people don't like those, some people do, but we're looking at ideas and how to make it safe and secure. The one I wanted to point out, and I talked to SAPD last night, the district that we're in, the police district we're in, is gigantic. I mean, it covers almost the western side, this side, north side of San Antonio. In our zone, where we are in, it's basically from the rim through La Cantera, up through Ralph Fair Road. We are the largest single community in that area, just to give you perspective. So you see that sign that, I don't know if you can read it now, about 8,800, almost 9,000 calls. We contribute about 7 or 8% to those calls. So is there a lot of incidents going on in the area? Yes. And as Keith said, when I moved here 20-some years ago, the rim wasn't even here. And now there's, between apartment houses and car dealerships, it's the whole area. So everything has changed. And we have to look back and look forward and say, what was good 20 years ago for our security may not be appropriate now. And that's what that's what we're shooting for. Okay. The 3 incidents, and when we're all through with all the presentations, we're going to have a Q&A. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. If you want to say afterwards, you want to contact me personally, I'll answer any question you have. I may not be the answer you're looking for, but honestly, I will be transparent with you. The shots fired, that happened last year, if you would. And I'll be honest with you, after reviewing the situation, I think the chief will tell you, and Rob, we didn't respond really well to that incident. And I have to admit, when I heard it at first, I said, shots fired, yeah, I hear it over Camp Bullis because my house wasn't too far from the fence. You hear M60s going off all the time. The initial response could have been better. And we've reviewed an after-action report and said, yes, we need to have a better procedure to notify our security, even a better that the SAPD works closely with us. I guess, and you'll see this later, if there is a serious incident, whether shots fired, a heart attack, or a fire, call 911. Call 911. They will immediately alert the off-duty security policeman here, and he, in turn, will notify our security, and they respond as a team. We didn't do a good job on that first incident, and I think we fixed that. We've exercised it. We've figured out different ways of doing it. Even one of the problems we had, believe it or not, was just communications. There's some areas in the Dominion that our radios couldn't talk back and forth. So we're looking at, hopefully, avoiding that situation. The other one on the home burglary, again, I ought to caveat this, and Jesse's back there. Once an incident report is filed, not with us, but with the SAPD, it's out of the HOA hands. It belongs to them. So if you're one of the persons that had a burglary, a car stolen, you need to contact the investigator who's in charge of that to get any update. We can't legally give you, we don't know, we don't get the information, but legally we can't pass anything on. So the home burglary found out that, and matter of fact, on Tuesday we're going to try this. Our cameras are not of the quality because, again, we're looking back 20 years that they should be. We're looking at some high definition cameras that when people come in and out, we can identify the person and the vehicle. And hopefully this test will prove that it's doable. The 4 car thefts happened in a very short period of time, almost all in the same area. 3 of the cars have been recovered. When that started, we started implementing, and some of you may find out if you're out late, about after midnight to 5, 6 in the morning, we do outbound checks. And the first time we did that, I was out there, and I'll be honest with you, it's amazing how many people come in at 2 in the morning and how many people leave about 5 in the morning. There's a lot of parties. But the second weekend we implemented it, 2 cars were stolen, and they actually ran our gate. And then they hit one of our vehicles, security vehicles, and almost hit one of our security officers. So the good news was, I think, even though they got away and the vehicles were recovered, it looked like, hopefully, we've stopped. I think people are saying, this is not a good place to steal something. But again, that's just one of the efforts we're trying to do to prevent that. I talked about safety. These are the numbers for last year, from last time basically we had a meeting. We were averaging about 200 speeding tickets a month. And I got to admit, that's really under. We've had people clocked at 60 plus miles an hour. We've had people have accidents and they figured they may have been doing 72 miles an hour. So with the cameras going up, and you'll see it's been a gradual reduction down to under 100. Again, not necessarily on the safeguard, or excuse me, on the security, but on the safeguard of the community. Next. All right, these are some of the things we've done, and you may not even realize that it's happening. We've got 5 officers now throughout the day, and at any one time in a swing shift at night, we have more SAPD officers here in the Dominion they do in all the rest of the area that we're responsible in the zone we're in. They usually have one and maybe two officers at night. We have 3. So you are being looked at by the SAPD. They are patrolling constantly. They do a patrol on the golf course. They're at the gates if there's an incident. So that was one of the things we did, and thank you, Mike, for approving the money for that. The golf cart patrol, like I said, we're out last night. It's dark out there. Even with night vision goggles, it's difficult to see out there. The ID checks coming out in the morning. I've been out 3 or 4 nights, and every individual on the outbound, I ask them, and they're glad we're doing it. And as a matter of fact, outbound and inbound late at night. And everyone seems to accept that. They understand if you want to have a secure system, you got to make some sacrifices. The speed indicators, you've seen those, and the cameras. We've reduced the speeding drastically. It's probably gone from the number, not only speeding tickets, but the speeding limit from maybe 51 to above down to about, I'm going to guess 38 is probably the average. So it's working, and I thank you for that. New radios, we did that for Allied, the security system, but show you how there are some dead areas. I was out one night with the SAPD. We were at the Camp Bullis Gate, and she called in, and she couldn't contact the headquarters. They put out a missing officer report. She had to use her cell phone to call in. So there's some dead areas, and we're finding out where those are. The last one, the vulnerability study. I always tell people, you don't know what you don't know. And in all the time I was in the security and military, I always had people exercising me, trying to find out where we were vulnerable. So we've had an RFP, a request for proposal out, asking for security companies, not an ADT home company, but a security consultant company, to come in and look at us. Clean sheet. You know, I don't care. We want to look at our training program for our security people. We want to look at our current procedures. Where are we vulnerable? Do you need lighting here? Do you need cameras here? And we hope from that, they will give us, these are the things you need to do to tighten security. And again, I would hope, and by middle of summer, we've got that recommendation, and then we'll have to go to Mike and ask for some money. Ending up, as I mentioned, like I said, if someone has a serious incident, if you have a fire in your house, please call 911, and then they will get hold of our security. Lock your vehicles at home. I know it sounds so basic. Last night, when I did the perimeter of the golf course, I would say maybe, at the most, a third of the houses that back up to the golf course have lighting in the backyard. And when I went by, I could shine a light into the window. And it's all I can say is, the more illumination you have, you never know whether deterrence works or not, but we're trying to make it difficult, whether they come from inside the community or they walk across the golf course or they park someplace. We want to make it more and more difficult. And lighting helps, and high-res cameras help. And possibly, in this study, we're going to look at fencing. Do we want a wall or fencing? I will be honest with you, with my background, a fence is just a demarcation of where your property ends and where is public property or whatever. If you want to, and I had them, a real fence needs to have sensors on it. You need motion sensors, you need cameras, you need all this stuff. And that's only the second third. The next final part is you need somebody to be monitoring them if you have an alarm go off. Then if the alarm goes off, you have someone to respond. So again, if they come back saying the only way to secure it is to build a fence, and then we'll have to go back to the community through the board saying this is one of the recommendations. I don't know what they're going to do, but we're looking for new ideas. And finally, and you've heard this so many times, if you see something, say something. I've had 2 or 3 people call me saying that we've seen kids come through a culvert. We've had people, come through this way. And we went out and looked, and yeah, there was a way to get into the Dominion. I think that's the last one. Okay, again, when Q&As, I'd be happy to answer questions. If you want to come to our board, can you hold off until the Q&A?
Sure, I'm ready to ask a question about security.
Yeah, if you don't mind, we're going to do question and answer at the end of the presentation, so we've got plenty of opportunity to do that if you don't mind.
It wouldn't be relevant right now while we're talking about it.
If you don't mind, we're almost good. We have one more item to finish, and we'll do Q&A.
Thank you. Thank you.
He deserves that and more, as well as his committee, because what they have to go through is really trying to define what we as an HOA can offer in terms of security, while we still have personal responsibility in our homes. One thing I want you to remember, and Bob may have touched on it, once an incident has been turned over to SAPD, unfortunately, we can't get any updates or release any of that information to the community. Wouldn't we like to see some of these perpetrators apprehended? I would like to see them hung by the gates so I can give them a high five as I'm driving out. But unfortunately, we can't do that. So they're working very hard for all of us. Please recognize them every time you see them. Okay, my favorite person in the world, the grass grower, the master grass grower. Bruce, give us your report.
Oh, well, first of all, I just want to say I'm very humbled and very honored to have been given the Volunteer of the Year award. It's been great to work with this HOA board and the HOA staff. They're fantastic, and yeah, thank you for your support on my board position as well as on landscape. So thank you. My landscape committee members, I do want to recognize them each by name because they have done a heck of a job the last 3 years that I've been on the board. Jim Bowles, Rich Dietz, Chris Idema, Ann Jones, Richard Wilborn, Andrea Castoreno, and Rob. Thank you very much for all y'all have done to help me. As you can imagine, the landscape committee duties, I mean, there they are. We meet once a month with Maldonado and the vendor, and we get updates on what's been accomplished and what's going to be accomplished. We review and approve landscaping plans for the neighborhood, and just try to do the best we can on that, you know. So that's pretty much it. Some things that we have accomplished in the last 3 years was we did have to sign a new maintenance plan. We put that out for bids, and we decided on Maldonado again. We do have a 5-year tree maintenance plan with Burkett Tree Services, and they have a very detailed plan as how they're going to work their way through the neighborhood tree trimming. We continue to work closely with SAWS on water topics, obviously. We've got detailed maps, and I credit Jim Berg on a lot of that, getting, when he was on the landscape committee, getting the detailed maps and timetables to the vendor for the maintenance work. And then, as we talked about a little bit earlier, or was brought up a little bit earlier, the main entry was redone last year. I think it looks real nice. We've done some enhancements to the cloisters, the legends, Renaissance, and Les Chateaux. And probably most importantly, what we've done in the last few years is we replaced the irrigation controllers from a very antiquated system that was no longer being supported by the company that built it to Rainbird controllers that are giving us real good data that can be tracked and keep our water usage in check. So we're able to manage and track that water usage a lot better than we were several years ago. So that pretty much sums it up for me. Thank you all very much.
That's another inside joke at the board meeting. Bruce has done a fantastic job of timing his rain dance, which his lovely wife will publish here hopefully soon for all of us to see. It's been fantastic. Bruce, thank you again. So every time you drive in through our gates, just think Bruce Berger. Here's another one of my favorite people, Karen Pyron. What Karen does, along with Carol Minton and the rest of the committee, to keep our community together. And she's done a fantastic job of restoring our annual tradition, the Thanksgiving bonfire. Karen, come give us your report.
Thank you, Keith. Good news, I am the last person to speak, so soon we will have election results and Q&A. So my name is Karen Pyron, and I am the chair of the Neighborhood Outreach Committee, also known as NOC. And these are our committee members, so if you are here, please stand. Sheila Kistner, she is our welcoming chair. Lamia Pruitt, our events chair. I don't think Blanche is here. Carol Minton is here, or was here. Joanne Leka, Sharon Berg, Brittany Supak, Lindsay Duckworth, and our HOA liaison is Miss Amber Casillas in the back. So our neighborhood outreach duties has 4 main purposes. Most importantly, I say, is to support the HOA staff through communication and through our welcoming to new residents in the community. We create and hold events, and we maintain the relationship here with the Dominion Country Club, since we do have several of our events here. Next, I think we have our events subcommittee members, and I don't think anyone here on this list is here tonight. Vasu Radia, Mary Seymour, Terry O'Neill, and Sandy Payne? Nope. Okay. Also, we have other residents that will help us out at events also, particularly the big ones like Fiesta and Bonfire. Okay, so our welcoming committee. Every month we get a list of new residents that have moved into the community. And what we do with our committee is we have a welcoming representative or an NOC representative, and they go personally to welcome each resident. And we also present them with a gift, which is a cooler, a Dominion cooler bag, a wine tumbler, information about the Dominion Country Club, neighborhood information, and a social calendar. And also, we hold a resident party, a new resident party, which we had a lovely evening about 2 weeks ago, right out here on the patio, and had a great turnout of new residents meeting other new residents. Through communication, we have started a new newsletter, The Voice of the NOC, which I hope everybody is enjoying. And like I said, our goal is to be transparent, communicate everything we can to the neighborhood. We also monitor the HOA website, use the Rapid Cast for emergency text notifications, constant contact for the email blasts that you get about all the events and different things going on in the community, our marquees at all the gates, and Stan, which is our digital artificial intelligence assistant. You can call that number and ask simple, basic questions. What are the hours of the HOA? How much are the dues? When are the dues due? That way the people at the office don't have to take so many calls in. And of course, our events. We only had 7 in 2021, and I believe we have 15 on the docket for this year. We did have to cancel our car show in February due to the cold weather. And there you see a couple pictures of our events. And I believe there was a rolling thing of pictures beforehand too. So thank you for your time. And next we'll do Q&A and election results. Thank you.
Karen, thank you. Your board is very excited that this year we had 6 excellent candidates running for the board for 3 seats. We encourage that trend to continue in years going forward. As I look out into the room and see the talent, and those of you at home, Please volunteer. We'd love to see fresh ideas, new people on the board, so that we can continue this premier neighborhood of the Dominion. Sandy will announce the results.
Well, actually, we're going to do Q&A.
Okay, sorry.
We're still counting ballots in the back, so we had
ballots,
quite a
okay,
few
wow.
come in. Thanks for voting, everybody, doing your civic duty. So we got quite a few coming in, and we're still tabulating those. So we'll announce here as soon as we can. With that, we're going to do Q&A. Appreciate your patience back here, the young lady that had a question. You can go ahead and ask the question. I'll repeat it for those who are joining us virtually.
You asked her name to have them present their name and where they live in the neighborhood.
Okay, good point. Just name, neighborhood, and then your question.
My name is Shannon, and I have multiple homes in the Dominion, and I moved my entire family here for the safety and security that the Dominion presents to us. Next to me is Shelley, who lives on Covington, and the reason that I'm standing up is because I want to say a few things. Number one, I really appreciate the fact that there's so many volunteers that work on the committees and on the boards. I realize that you're taking your own time, and that it's a huge commitment, and it's a no thank you job, so I want to thank you. I also want to say that we pointed out here on multiple different occasions that security is your largest expense. Security are not volunteers. Security work for us, and I think that we deserve better than what is currently being given back to us as a community. And I'm not making any criticisms right now, and I'm not making any type of accusations, but the one bullet statement up there that said shots won, and Bob, you kind of went a little bit all over the place with, we did a good job, we didn't do a good job. Shelley's house is directly in line of fire. There were 19.556 casings found on that front driveway from a semi-automatic weapon. There was more than 35 other shots fired. We took the deposition of an individual who was actually shot that evening. And I think that it is it's not fair to the community to say that anybody responded appropriately to that, because security, in fact, wrote it off as a disturbance. And they towed a car that had been shot more than 20 times as an unoccupied vehicle, while there's bullets and homes and fences in that neighborhood. And I think that we could do a better job, and I don't think that we should candy coat things. My home was the home on December 6th that was entered by 4 armed unknown men. They tried to steal some vehicles. They walked out with a dirt bike, very expensive neon green dirt bike. That wasn't listed up there. That neon green dirt bike was not seen on any type of film or video or security guard. And it's really interesting to me that nobody has found the vehicles, there's never any video, there's never any surveillance, and I think that we deserve better than that too. So I really hope that going forward, that when people have concerns about things that affect us in a dramatic manner, I could have lost people in my family with one wrong move that night.
Thank you.
Not everybody can hear that because you're not hearing the real story.
Yeah, thank you. I can't repeat all of that, but generally, there's concerns. There were some incidents here, and Bob, if you'd like to weigh in, where's Bob? But there was some significant incidents, as we noted here. There was shooting. There was something new, but very significant, very extreme, and very concerning. There's been some burglaries, been car thefts, and activity that's been unusual for this community. And as Bob indicated, taking it seriously, we're making adjustments. But the point being, and your point is valid, we can do a better job. And we as management, we as the board, we as the security committee are endeavoring to do that. We're hiring outside consultants. We're trying to do different things. We're closing gates down. We're checking IDs. We're moving people into the transponder lanes. We're looking at cameras and analytics. We're doing things. We're looking to do things differently, to your point. We have to, right? It's changing here. We're seeing things that haven't occurred here in 35 years, but they're here, and we need to do things differently. So anything you want to add to that?
Shannon, is it Shannon? Yeah. I didn't want to cover anything up. It was bad. Our response was wrong. I'll be the first to admit that. I wasn't trying to cover it up because of been better.
We were brushed off in that meeting when we went to the security meeting to have that conversation, and I'm sorry, I'm just gonna interrupt you really quickly, but we were brushed off. We had suggestions, and it was very like, okay, well, y'all should have called 911. No, they even went over to them and talked to Xanax, and then told us that they never went to Xanax and answered the door, they didn't talk to them. Felt very covered up. And that's my concern when it comes to security. That's a big concern. We brought up ideas. How come we don't have more people patrolling at night? From what I understand, residents used to say that people would patrol and then they'd get phone calls that would say, hey, the garage is open for 15 minutes. How come that doesn't happen? And another bullet that I saw, and I'm curious, where does the emergency communications come from? Does that come from security or?
Did I address, Robbie, I don't want to tie the whole thing up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll try to do it one time. I actually chaired the security committee that day when people came in. We didn't cover anything up. I think I told you that day, we didn't do a good response. But once it's turned over to SAPD, we are not involved anymore. But we said, we didn't do a good job, what can we do? And the chief's back there from Allied, I didn't introduce him earlier. We said, okay, what do we do? We need to improve communications, we need to get more security at night, so that's why throughout the evening, you're gonna have at least 3 SAPD in here. There was never an effort to cover up. We just can't do it, we can do anything inside the gate that'll enhance it. Once it's turned over to SAPD, it's their responsibility, and then that's when, I'll be honest with you, and at that meeting, if you were there, I said, I think it's great you videoed that, but did you ever hear run, hide, fight? You don't run to the gunfire unless you're a security person. They had a video, they showed that day. Okay, but I don't want to get into an argument, but I'm just saying that's what happened. I just advise people.
Repeated that as we're responsible for 911. I know in our armed situation, we didn't know completely about what was happening until a little bit later that morning with security cameras, because they were able to just take a dirt bike, which was easily, yeah, it was a big dirt, it was a 250, so it was a big guy. But instead of telling us you need to call 911, a bunch of people on Hudson County, Staffordshire on May 6th of 2021 called and said there are shots fired at 3:30 in the morning. Why didn't security call 911?
They were fine. They went up and said they talked to her and everything was fine, which
Wasn't true.
I don't know how many times to say we didn't do a good job. I'll be the first to admit it.
saying, like, it was kind of, it felt very rushed off, covered up. Nobody really took care of that situation. And we as residents, not only myself, but, you know, others on that road, we all felt that we weren't taken care of in that situation. And we came to that meeting, and in the meeting, we felt rushed off when we spoke. So it was, I'm not saying it was you. You were very kind. But it was kind of like, well, this is what we did. Well, we did this. Well, we did this. Well, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do this? Instead of just letting us tell you the situation and then have you say, thank you for your concern. This is what we're going to do.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
So my name is Sheila, I live in the block. Given their concerns, which all seem very valid, and in hindsight, and, you know, the rearview mirror is always 20/20. What would you suggest that be done going forward? And let's move on to the next section.
And thank you. Like I said, we admitted it wasn't good, SAPD and our own security, and we did internally. If there's an issue that's serious, call 911, and then they will respond. When we responded that night, they knocked on the door, everything had quieted down by then. And it was there any incident here? And the person said, no. Not well done. The SAPD responded. The next morning when the investigator came out, that's when they saw it. I will tell you right now, it wasn't handled properly. I don't know what else to tell you.
So the response should be, please call 911. In the meantime, you should also call our security so that there's an immediate internal response. Would that be the response?
Yeah, and either way, if you call 911, they will notify the on-duty policeman, and he will call our security. If you do it the other way, it's just, I'd rather have an armed officer respond in that situation than our security officer.
I just think we should all know what is the proper protocol.
911.
the security not call 911?
Yes, they will call the security, well, depending, fire department or police department, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yes, sir.